And we are back on Capitol Tonight. It has now been more than a month since parts of New York were battered by tropical storms Irene and Lee. Then there was the flooding, of course, that came after them. Hundreds of people lost their homes in these storms, and they are still relying on federal and state assistance to get by. My next guest thinks there's actually one more thing the federal government and the state government could be doing to help dozens of families recover from these natural disasters. He wants the Department for Housing and Urban Development to let victims of the flooding cash in on first-time homebuyer credits that the government has long been offering, regardless of whether they own a home now. He is Assemblyman Jim TEDISCO. He represents parts of Schenectady that saw some very terrible flooding, actually.
We had some very bad flooding in the Stockade, and of course Rotterdam Junction was, I was out there last Saturday taking out furnaces which were destroyed, boilers, and putting up walls, and you know, some lost 25%, some lost 50%, but some lost the whole shoot and shebang.
Yeah.
And they have a $250,000 mortgage they still have to pay off, but they have no house.
Okay. There's two things here. First of all, the state has programs, right? Mm-hmm. And the federal government has programs. HUD has housing programs. There's actually a lot.
Sunny May, five or six different programs.
Sure. So you want both the state and the feds to get involved here? You do? Yes,
we've sent a letter to Governor Cuomo, of course, who was Secretary of HUD, has pretty good connections with the guy in the top there, President Obama, worked for Bill Clinton, and we sent a letter to the President. And these are individuals who cannot buy into these subsidies and benefits because they already had a home. Now, the home doesn't exist anymore because it was completely destroyed by these floods. We're talking about people who lost everything, have to either rebuild totally or have to purchase new homes or just have to rent or do whatever they can to get housing. And we've asked the governor to either, through his own abilities and also working with the President and Congress, to maybe give these guys first-time homeowner status and have access to these benefits and these subsidies. Now, we have a BNI, Better Neighborhoods Incorporated in Schenectady, Edward August, who basically close to lost his home. He had to be rescued by boat, who is the director. He's got 4 houses which are available in the city of Schenectady right now, but you have to fall within the guidelines of 80% of the median income in this area. But you have to be designated a first-time home buyer.
Okay, so you need both. Well, here's the thing, though. Are you asking for not only, regardless of if you had had 10 homes before and this is your 11th, or you had had 2 or whatever, or maybe it's your first and now you're looking for your second, these people would be basically hitting the reset button to get set back to 1.
Right.
But what about that income waiver that you might need?
Yeah. Right now, what we're just asking for is to get that first-time home buyer status.
Yeah.
But we may also want to take a look at maybe moving that income level up, because right now it's around $61,000 for 4 children.
Yeah.
But these are people who have special circumstances right now. You know, maybe we should move it up to $70,000, $75,000, or $80,000. They've got to have a family of 4, and they've got to completely have lost their home. And as I said, even with that income, if you still have $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, or $250,000 mortgage to pay off, but your house doesn't exist anymore, that's a heavy hit on your income.
But you're going to get money back ostensibly from your insurance company if you were insured.
Yeah. See, Ed August, who's the director of BNI, Better Neighborhoods Incorporated, who builds these houses, lost his flood insurance a year ago before this incident. They said, you're not in the flood area anymore. Well, he was in the flood area because he had 7 feet of water on his first floor. He had to be rescued by boat from the second floor.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that flood insurance. He's going to get some FEMA money, some other assistance from the state. And so even those individuals who seem to have had flood insurance are having a bit of problem connecting with their insurance company. It seems that, and I don't want to downtrodden on some of these insurance companies, but we pay the premiums, but when it's time to collect, I think the Attorney General has to take a little bit of a look at what's happening out there. Because I have some people call me and say, now my insurance company says you had flood insurance but not for a tropical storm. Then I have another group calling me and said you had flood insurance but not for a tornado. Or you didn't have enough of it that came into your cellar. Or you weren't really in the... You know, if you have flood insurance, Liz, you should have flood insurance. And I think we pay the premiums. I expect these insurance companies to come through. So I think the governor and maybe the Attorney General have to get involved in a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think early on we saw some statements from Ben Lawsky, the superintendent of the new finance department, which is like the Uber regulatory department, saying flood insurance is flood insurance. Yes, you should have it. Everyone should honor it. I mean, look, from what you're telling me, it just seems like it's going to take a long time, and we knew this already, for this to work itself out.
Long time, and it's going to take a holistic approach. Besides this, you know, we've got a sponsor in the Senate, Senator Farley. We've got Democratic sponsors on a bill to eliminate the sales tax on essentials.
Right, and where's that going? Oh, you can't do anything until you come back. You're not expected to come back.
But it relates to your 2011-2012 tax credit. You get a full credit. I had one guy who called me and said, Jim, you got to get this done. I have $1,500 in sales tax already for the purchase of lumber and putting my house back together.
Well, would it be retroactive then?
Oh, yes.
It would.
As long as they keep their receipts. And I'm proud to say we got 2 or 3 Democratic sponsors in the Assembly on that, and a majority member sponsor in the Senate on that.
Okay, before we go any further, I'm just curious, do you have any idea how much it might cost in order to broaden some of these programs to let in people who are not, in fact, first-time home buyers?
Cost the federal government in the state of New York? Well, see, we don't have a good handle right now, and that's the first thing I asked the governor of the state of New York to do, a full evaluation of the impact of this storm on homeowners, how much they've lost, the preparedness process, and the response process. Because, Liz, it'll be another tragedy if we face a storm like this and don't evaluate what we've done right and what we've done wrong.
Well, generally speaking, do you think that the Cuomo administration did a good job in responding?
From what I've seen right now, yes, under the circumstances. But I think we were caught off guard a little bit. The suggestion was it's going to hit New York City, it's going to be out in that area more. Well, it didn't really hit New York City. It hit upstate New York harder, Schoharie County, Schenectady County. And we found out that a flood is a lot like a tornado. It just doesn't hit the entire neighborhood. You know, I was surprised to see that I'm in a house with 2.5 feet of sludge and water in it, taking out a furnace, and the 2 or 3 houses next to that had no water damage whatsoever, and then there's 2 or 3 houses which are almost completely destroyed, similar to what a tornado does. So water reaches its own level depending upon where your house is sitting.
Yeah, but the long-term effect on a neighborhood, let's say that those 2 houses that are gone then subsequently get decimated and not rebuilt, then this house is standing and untouched, but this one gets condemned and the one across the street, then you have basically like a mouthful of rotten teeth with a couple of teeth that are still good.
And you have a real impact on your assessments. So it's not only important, I think, to assess a house that was damaged, which we have another piece of legislation for, because our property taxes are based on the value of our house. Well, if you lost 50% of your house, the value isn't where it was before in terms of assessment. But also, those other houses aren't worth as much because of the negative impact. You make a great point on the neighborhood.
Okay, well, in the long term, then, you're going to have a problem regarding the property tax base, which is already capped thanks to you guys, the legislature.
Right. 2%. Right? And really, it was the right thing to do, because we have the highest property taxes in the United States of America.
Yeah, but now
my constituents can't afford one more penny.
I understand that. But now some of these communities that aren't getting, I mean, the governor says it's going to be $1 billion to clean up this mess.
Yeah. Well, the city of Schenectady came in below. Rotterdam came in below the 2%. Niskuna came in below 2%. Saratoga came in below 2%. And the real argument is not only the storm, it's unfunded mandates. We did $127 million of relief on unfunded mandates. That's woefully low. The governor made the argument, we need the hammer first. We need the cap, and then that will put pressure to do the unfunded mandates. But I see right now they're making it below the 2%, and that's good for our constituents. I mean, our feeling was we should have done this 2% cap 5 years ago and then started to reduce property taxes by now. But we have to do those unfunded mandates, but it looks like they're hanging in there. Look, we made some tough decisions at the state level. They're still happening with the potential of 3,500 employees being laid off by PEF. And there's going to be some tough decisions by local municipalities, but I give them a tremendous amount of credit. They're doing some of those tough decisions.
Okay. I want to thank you very much. Obviously, we're going to see what the governor says about this. Perhaps the president will respond, and I hope you keep us posted on that.
We will, Liz. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.